Warning. Warning. This video contains some very explicit content which can be highly offensive to some minority groups and age inappropriate for some of our younger viewers. This vid may certainly contain lots of code red language and bad level swear and explicit words for some children the age of 11 and younger. It may also contain some very violent and sensual scenes and events, and may also include the use of heavy substances. This video contains some highly controversial and disturbing material for certain groups, so if you are uncomfortable with such material, or you are the age of 11 years old or younger, then I do suggest that you do skip this video, and choose not to watch it. Anyway, let us get on to the video. Yo, what is up my cool fams? It is I, Alan the Jackal. So yeah guys, today I am gonna do a reaction video. I just felt like it is time I start reacting to videos, whilst I play on Minecraft. Today I shall be reacting to a video called, The Best Argument Against Veganism, starring Emily from Bite Size Vegan, and vegan activist Cluck, Gary Rofsky. At least that is how I think you say his name. Anyway, I have never been a really great fan of exactly 5 groups of people. And they are, communists, feminists, hippies, atheists, and of course, vegans. Now do not get me wrong fams. I do not exactly hate the atheist community, nor the vegan community. I just do not like the idea that vegans and atheists of today generally have towards religion, worship and the consumption of meat. I like all the atheists and vegans who respect religion and the eating of meat. But to the ones who act like cucks, and spew carnophobia and theophobia like ADCs, it is to such people that I have a true distaste for. But these two in this video seem to be actual dipshit cuckoids, so I wonder they are gonna say. Anyway, on to the reaction.
Hi, it's Emily from Bite Size Vegan.
Yo fam, we already know. You look like a sick person.
And welcome to another Vegan Nugget. Today's video is another installment of my interview with vegan activist Gary Yourofsky.
Wait. Oh my godliness. This is not the first time this crazy lady and that cuckoid of a guy have had another one before. Wow. This world is suffering. It is really damn suffering.
Now, if you're vegan or even considering being vegan,
I would, most certainly, not in 10 lives of mine, ever go vegan. Like I would probably jump off a cliff, rather than be a vegan. I love eating meat and dairy too much.
chances are you've come up against some anti-vegan arguments. Perhaps you've even posed some of them yourself in the time leading up to being vegan.
As I said before, I would rather die than take my life to any sort of pathetic expense of a lifestyle, such as veganism. I am simply not interested in wasting away my life to that trash. But I do have many great arguments for why it is okay for me to not be a vegan.
While legitimate questions and concerns from non-vegans can serve as teaching moments and are valuable opportunities for education, some anti-vegan arguments are purely baseless and made only to provoke.
Yup, you heard it folks. The whole point of a non-vegan arguing with a vegan is to learn about veganism and get manipulated and evangelized into becoming a vegan. Everything should always be a learning process to becoming vegan, and free will should not be practiced at all. When a vegan makes an argument for veganism, then it should always be right, but when a meat eater or vegetarian says something, then it should always be labeled as good or bad based on what vegans think. Wow, Emily, I never knew you are the god of our universe who has the right to make judgments on people.
In his vast experience working with non-vegans, Gary Yourofsky has probably heard every line of reasoning in the book. So I decided to ask him what is the best anti-vegan argument.
Pretty much every argument for the consumption of meaty foods I have ever heard is pretty logical and reasonable to me personally. From the food chain, to the circle of life, to the higher amount of proteins and calcium we can gain from the consumption of meats and dairies, to the fact that we have both flat teeth and canine teeth, to the well-proven idea that we humans evolved from apes to sapiens because of carrion eating. All of it, I find mesmerizing and logical. But of course, veganist cuckoids like Emily and Gary, raw fish hater, will never be able to understand that. Once a person gets too fixated or biased to their own goals or viewpoints, and gets so aversive and opposed to the viewpoints and opinions of other people, they will see even the worst of their beliefs as a word and blessing from God himself. and even the best in the beliefs of others, as a curse from the devil's pit. Such as the attributes of ego and bias. It clouds the mind in such ways. That is the real reason you and Gary cannot see any good things about meat eating.
Let's check out his answer, and then I'll jump back in to share what I think is the strongest argument against veganism.
Wow, what's such a fantastic intro. Totally not deteriorating my freaking brain cells.
So you would know more than anyone else that there are a lot of stupid arguments against veganism.
Half of those arguments are actually very good and reasonable arguments. It is just that simple-minded folk, like these two, find that really hard to understand.
But what would you say is the best argument against veganism, if there is one?
There's not, honestly.
Yes, right off the bat, we must just conclude that there is not. That is how we prove things, guys. When you want to prove that your side is right, and the opposite side is wrong, just say that they have no good points. When taking the process of trying to look at the good points and arguments of the opposing team, the way to win is to always conclude with a, nah. There is none. To try and actually argue, or actually look at or knowing the points of the opponents, would totally be a fatal act of betraying yourself. The only way to actually stay firm and loyal to your cause, is to act like a coward, and just claim that everyone else is completely wrong, and only your team has anything right. Yeah. Totally not egoistic, man.
I swear I racked my brain over this. There is no... In fact, I got a professor down here, University of Central Florida, who once told me the only reason he became veg is because all the arguments he heard against it were stupid.
Who the absolute fuck would ever become vegan, just because they thought every reason to not be one is retarded? And in fact, if there is no good reason to eat non-veg, then why was he a non-vegetarian in the first place? Why did he need to change to a veg-based diet, if he originally had a diet with non-veg foods? Is it because his parents wanted him to? I mean, if doing it because that is what your dad wanted you to grow up to be, and that is the food which your mom made you when you were just a child, is not a valid point, then I don't know what is. Honoring your parents is a great point.
That was his reason, and he was a philosopher. He said, I cannot continue to do this because everyone's reason for eating meat, cheese, milk, eggs, and honey is absolutely fucking stupid.
And the fuck he knows. Yeah, man, you go, boy. Man, I just cannot handle the mental retardedness of some people. They are just cucks, and their brains are made of shit.
I really don't know of one good logical argument. It doesn't exist.
You know, man, if you weren't so biased against meat eating, I could actually give you so many good arguments. I have actually listed a lot of them before in the video. But you will probably still say the same thing. It ain't a good argument. Yeah, in the understanding of the points and reasoning of others and their side, ego and bias are the two enemies of it, both qualities of which Gary and Emily both seem to be having a tub of in their hearts and minds. One needs the traits of humility and open-mindedness, both of which vegans do not generally have.
But don't think that I'm exaggerating or being hyperbolic when I say this, because there's not one good argument for raping a child. There's not one good argument for murdering a homosexual in Uganda. There's not one justifiable argument for denying women the right to equality in Afghanistan, the right to go to school, the right to vote in Middle Eastern countries.
Literally pretty much none of those arguments have anything to do with the topic at hand. I can understand why you would relate torture of animals to raping a child, being sexist against women, or killing gay guys. But there are multiple differences between them all. First of all, not trying to sound wrong here, but the reasons why the following claims Gary has just said are justifiable is because those are their countries, not ours. Okay, now raping a child is never right, but Uganda is not America or Canada to allow gays like that. It be their nation, it be their choices, okay. Same with Afghanistan, okay, it is their country to oppress women. And they are not raping women, okay, they are just making their own rules for what they want. Not trying to sound anything wrong here, okay you guys, I still do not like it when people do wrong things, but you cannot make people for other countries act as per your laws. But back to the actual topics. While I do agree that the ways farmers and butchers are not treating their animals the best way, but that does not mean that those are the best three things to relate this to. Raping a kid is not the same as eating an animal.
So there is not one logical reason to enslave, murder, and oppress animals and consume their body parts.
Wow. Just like wow. If this is not the worst shit a person has ever had to hear, then I sincerely do not know what is. You see, while I do believe that farmers and people working in the animal agriculture industry are treating animals super horribly, in today's days, that does not mean that meat eating, dairy consumption or eggs are the problem. I do not see how anyone could be so biased, one-sided, and how to say this, even obsessed to the hilt with your side, is not enough and all that to be able to only see animal agriculture as the problem. The real problems are the ways people are treating animals in today's world, compared to how meat eating was done before. Nowadays animals get injections done to them, they have antibiotics taken, they are heavily manufactured, there is a mass production that is also destroying the environment, and causing climate change, and they are given pretty harsh deaths and made to suffer and be afraid before death time. Those are the real problems, guys. The factory production and substance used to Jewisify the animals. There is also organic free-range hunting techniques. Look, you guys should understand that those are the real problems. Animals should be treated as fair as they can be, and their deaths should be quick and painless. But still, not eating those animals is not the solution here. No, the real problem. Human beings are supposed to be an omnivorous species with teeth and jaws meant for eating both plants and animals. And we're created in this universe to be highest on the food chain. So not eating meat does not solve anything.
I hope you enjoyed hearing Gary's take on this matter. I have to say that my thinking is rather in line with what Gary shared.
Of course you do. Just as how great minds think alike, dull minds think alike as well. And the biased never change their opinions or see the points of other people. How beautiful truly are the minds which are open. It is certainly true that minds and eyes are one alike. After all, it is through nervous connections to the eyes that the brain is able to see so much. And so a mind which is open are like eyes which are open. Powerful, humble, grasping, and ever ready to learn, doubt one's own beliefs, and change as well see the points of others. And the mind which is closed is like the eyes which are closed. Blind and ignorant, unable to accomplish the seeing of things beyond the ideas of one's own self, and a huge, endless and eternal darkness, and nothing else. It is unable to grasp the viewpoints of others, refuses empathy, but rather see thy own views alone.
In my recent interview with the popular blog Vegan Street, when asked what I thought was the biggest strength of the vegan movement,
is the fact that you guys actually have absolutely none. You guys are just a bunch of hypocritical bigots, irrational morons, and people who focus on other people's plates. The greatest strengths I would say of following an actual vegan lifestyle, and eating only plants and no animal products in case that is the choice you want to make, then the greatest strengths can be the following. The fact that you personally care about animals to yourself, you may have longer life, and possibly better health, you take in a lot of veggies and fruits, and have good self-discipline. But those are only the great strengths of having a personal vegan choice. Veganism can be a good lifestyle if you keep it as your choice, of which diet and food habits you want to follow. But when you start making it a movement, and start to activist itself to people who do not want to be vegan, and like meat and milk, that is when you turn it into a bigoted cult that creates vegan evangelism, and makes people hate vegans, even the innocent and good ones. That is the greatest strength of your movement, spreading annoyance and hate.
I said it was that we have truth on our side.
Actually, one of the real greatest traits of the vegan evangelists and activists is that they are very stupid, and only care about blind compassion. They always act like dumb hippies, and they have no actual logic to their side. They are mostly all pathos, and no logos. This is the real why mostly women and girls tend to join their team, and men and boys, even some highly Hindu ones, usually tend to ignore them and think they are trash. They have no real logic or understanding in their side, and that is the stuff which we men usually tend to be fans of. They are generally a very highly emotional and blind compassion-based group. And they follow non-violence and passive life so blindly. That is why they are generally the girly group, and not the manly group. That is also why they tend to attract a lot of Sikhs, Buddhists, and Jains. And because they show no consideration for the soul and not the materialistic and living life of the animal, and no consideration for the circle of life or the food chain of God, is why a lot of atheists like them more than theists and Christians do.
There is no way to logically justify what we do to animals for our food, fashion, medicine, and entertainment.
Okay, while now I do consider the entertainment not needed at all, and the circus is kind of enslavement, especially if the animals actually feel sad because of it. But we need wool and leather to make clothes. What else can we use to make clothes? Plus, the wool on a sheep is a burden on it. We humans just take that out. That is not so wrong of us. And eating animals is just part of the circle of life and the food chain. Humans are supposed to be on the top of the chain. Animals are the food of man, just as animals are each other's food, and plants are the food of both man and animal.
All of the facts and the legitimate arguments are on our side. This is reflected in the absurdity that often arises when people try to justify their behaviors.
Those so-called dumb absurdities are actually the logic and reasoning which most non-vegetarians and meat-eaters are saying it is okay to not just go all-out vegan. But you guys are vegangelists. You shall never understand those. Meat actually contains protein, and milk actually has calcium. Humans actually became humans from apes because we ate carrion meat. There is actual proof.
When our vegetarian ancestors started eating meat around 2 million years ago, it wasn't just because animals taste great, it was pure necessity. Climate change made many of the plants our ancestors relied on less available, and meat bridged that gap. From the discovery of fire
and accept it, okay, when you eat veg you are actually killing plants, accept it, even the great spiritual ascetic, Sadhguru thinks so.
Today there is substantial documentation to show that plants are as sensitive as any other creature. So whether you eat a plant or an animal or whatever, it is still violence. Only thing is they don't scream. They do scream, you don't hear, that's all. There's enough evidence to show that they do scream.
You can read my answers to the other 9 questions in the interview on the Vegan Street blog, which I've linked in the video description below.
No, the last thing I want to do right now is have anything to do with either of you. You are both just so stupid and nuts and you do not know what you are talking about. Oh hey Gary, yeah Emily, what is the best thing against veganism? There is not okay. What? Yes Emily, there is just not. Oh, okay. And then there you have it folks, there is no good argument against veganism. Oh sorry, not against veganism, more like for the allowing of meat eating. Meat eaters do not care, okay.
Now all of that said, I do have to admit that there is one argument that someone can lay down for eating animal products that I have absolutely no defense against. And that is the statement, I don't care.
Actually, I think that is the absolute last argument any rational person would make for meat eating. Yes, the last thing any logical meat eater would say, which if you guys do not think it is real, we are. Logical animal product consumers are like climate change to vegans. We are a problem to them, but they also do not think we exist, although we do.
If someone simply does not care what happens to the animals, the environment, or even their own health by the continued breeding, torturing, exploitation, and slaughter of billions of animals.
Wow, just wow, is that literally all you think it is? Well, who cares? Animals do it to themselves too though. Have you ever thought of what lions do to gazelles, or tigers do to wild boars?
I certainly can't say anything that's going to change that. Complete and utter apathy cannot be argued away. Now, of course, it's not an actual defeat of vegan principles.
Okay, now I cannot handle this anymore, okay guys. And in the rest of the video she actually talks about how logic is on the side of their movement. Oh, I am sorry my dear Emily, but logic is the last thing on your side. Just accept that you have nothing but emotions and ignorance with you, and you might not be fooling yourself. Anyway, at this point I cannot handle this anymore and I have to end it. Thank you all for watching, guys, and please do like this video, subscribe to my channel and share with all your friends if you enjoyed. Until next time, my cool fams. Bye, guys.
Baby, my world like nobody else.